like a street festival kind of atmosphere out there, but kind of weird.
Wow. So, and I want to encourage folks to follow. You can follow so many Twitter accounts to see kind of these images, so many Twitter and Facebook's accounts to see these images from outside. So, and I want to encourage folks to follow. You can follow so many Twitter accounts to
That's weird.
images, so many Twitter and Facebook's accounts.
You going live?
From outside. So, what we have going on right here, that extra noise that you heard, is we just went live on YouTube. On Code Pink's YouTube account. We were originally planning on going live on Facebook, but we switched over to YouTube. So if we can just give a little brief introduction again, just names and where you are.
One more time.
I'm Adrienne Pine. I'm an anthropologist, and I'm in the Venezuelan Embassy.
I'm Pocky Wieland, Code Pink, and I'm in the Venezuelan Embassy.
I'm Kevin Zees from Baltimore, but now in Georgetown in the Venezuelan Embassy.
Margaret Flowers and Kevin and I are co-directors of Popular Resistance, and we're in the Venezuelan Embassy in Georgetown in Washington, D.C.
I'm Julie Leak. I came over last Saturday from New York to spend 2 days, and I am still here.
So one of you who's been there longer, could you talk about the process that came to the decision to live in the Venezuelan Embassy and form the Embassy Protection Collective?
Well, the collective began on April 10th. That was the day after the OAS changed its rules in order to recognize Juan Guaidó as the president of Venezuela. They couldn't get it passed through their normal rules, which required 2/3 vote, and they barely got it passed as a majority vote. And we decided to do this. Code Pink was a key player in getting it started. We decided to join that effort because the Venezuelan Embassy, the Venezuelan military attaché, and 3 offices in New York had already been seized by the opposition. So it was evident that that was their strategy, was to take these Venezuelan buildings and pretend they became buildings of this non-existent government. And this, of course, this building we're in right now, that is the gold. That is it's Georgetown. It's a 4-story building with a 2-story garage and a basement. So it's really a very large building. 80 people used to work here. And if they take this building, they can try to keep the coup going. This what's really strange about this is, normally coups are bad enough. And it's a coup. It's, of course, then the new government takes the embassies. But here we have a coup that fails, and they take the embassy or try to take the embassy. So that's like totally a new level of coupdom.
Twice, in fact, 3 times.
I count 3. I count 3 failures.
3 failures of the coup.
The first one he announced, expected a revolution, no one came. The second one was a humanitarian crisis. They got blocked at the border. And the third one was the most recent one when they thought they could take over the military, and the military didn't show up. And Leopoldo Lopez went into hiding. Guaidó did too temporarily, but the Maduro government keeps Guaidó out, because when he's out, he actually hurts himself. He's like failing and failing and failing, becoming less and less relevant, less and less popular. The longer he's out, the weaker the coup gets.
I just want to mention that we first tried legal means to see if we could stop the U.S. from illegally giving this embassy to somebody who's not president of Venezuela, and that was not possible. There is a doctrine of non-judiciability that says that this is a political question and that the courts would defer to the government on this. Of course, the administration under Trump recognizes Guaidó, although the United Nations continues to recognize Maduro, and over 140 countries around the world continue to recognize Maduro. So then we realized that it was going to take just putting a big call out and lots of people here and showing resolve and willingness to have them have to come in and drag us out. The established residency here that would be protected under DC law, tenant laws. And so we are now the tenants of this building owned by the Venezuelan government, residing and working here. And that seems to have worked. The State Department doesn't have the legal means to evict us. And so they brought in, or somebody brought in, these people that are trying to annoy us out. We want to add to that.
I think, we're here because we're committed. And that's the only thing. We can keep singing our song, we're still here. I actually have to go because I have another interview, but it's great to be here. I love these people I'm here with, and we're finding so much complementarity and such good spirit among everybody. So I recommend to anyone, if there's a proposed coup anywhere you're around, jump in and do what you can to stop it. See you all later.
Thank you, Becky.
Thank you, Becky.
So I'm going to talk about some high and or low points. That live interim protectors of the embassy, low points like when Becky came and the siege began, or things like that. And what's kept your spirits up? What gives you that resistance and resolve each day?
Well, for me, I actually feel more committed today than I did when I came over because I've learned so much. I watched an interview yesterday with an Afro-Venezuelan that I found very encouraging. And then when I was doing the security round the other night, I went into the library and I took some pictures of the on the wall, and the one in Venezuela of Chavez. And, I thought it was a lovely thought and picture, and I really felt a solidarity with the people of Venezuela. It was kind of a strange feeling, but I just feel like if we let these people on the outside come in, that they'll just destroy it and they won't take care of it. So I feel, responsible to stay and help to hold on to it.
I'll tell you some high points. I mean, there's so many high points. It's such a positive experience. No doubt, I think the highest point was the day after the failed coup in Venezuela. They tried to take this embassy with the fake ambassador, Vecchio, coming here, all prepared. He had you saw his aide had all these Venezuela symbols. He was going to take the building. And instead of taking the building, he had to flee in fear. We were able to cut off his sound. He was unable to speak. We were protesting him from inside. And he had to leave in fear. And he was chased down the street by one of our embedded reporters, Anya Parampil. And she asked him the question, "Are you going to the White House now? Where are you going next?" So that was a high point for me. Another high point, I think, was this last weekend when we really had our allies come out to know that we have such support from people who have been following this and are aware of it. And it's not easy to follow because the New York Times hasn't covered it. This is a unique moment in U.S. history. And all the news that's fit to print doesn't think that's fit to print. It never happened before that a group of U.S. Americans are in an embassy trying to stop a U.S. coup. That's never happened before. It should be news, but the U.S. Times hasn't covered it, New York Times hasn't covered it. But people showed up anyway because we have our own media and people are sharing this information. And so we had a great turnout, battle of dueling protests. I'd say our side was louder and larger. It was so impressive, and I felt so good about that. I understand from people now, they're talking about a daily 4 o'clock to 7 o'clock turnout of people coming to support the collective. We would love to see that. I hope that happens. That would be a fantastic breakthrough for us. The one other thing I'll say was a great highlight for us was to see the very positive comments in social media from people in Venezuela. To see social movements in Venezuela writing us a group letter thanking us. To hear the foreign minister multiple times saying how proud he was of us, to see us on the largest TV show in Venezuela, the most widely watched show in Venezuela, and to see the audience standing up in ovation because they talked about what we're doing here and talking about us, putting ourselves on the line for the people of Venezuela. That's exactly how we see it. We are here in solidarity with the people of Venezuela, and so we're so pleased that they see that as well.
So Kevin, you talked both about the media coverage and about the people of Venezuela. So, some of the media coverage that we are getting and that's in Washington, D.C. says, it has the people outside saying, "We're Venezuelan and you're denying us our consular services and you're, American imperialists taking our building." Could you talk a little bit about kind of, can you help deconstruct that and contrast it with the people on the ground in Venezuela and what support looks like? And
Go ahead.
All right, I'll take that one then. Yeah, I mean, the narrative that the people outside are trying to create is exactly what you said. We are the real Venezuelans and we represent Venezuela. But in reality, even Carlos Vecchio, the fake ambassador for Guaidó, put a tweet out yesterday thanking all the Nicaraguans and Cubans who had come out to rally. So really what we have is not anything like a representative Venezuelan group, but rather a group of pan-American white supremacists and fascists who have come together in what is not a nation versus nation war. It's an international class war, what we're seeing here. The character of the people downstairs who have been touting the most unthinkably atrocious, racist, misogynist, homophobic things, including death threats and rape threats at many of us, they come out in their finest designer clothing. They are predominantly very light-skinned, not at all representative of sort of the broad diversity of Venezuela. They all speak fluent English. They all have the luxury of time. They're not working 3 jobs. They have the time and the money to come out here. They've got fantastic sound systems. I mean, these are not people who represent Venezuela. These are people who represent the interests of capital, of neoliberal fascism. And so when they put it in those terms, that's really disingenuous. We are not occupying the embassy. We would much rather that the actual Venezuelan government be here, that Venezuelans be here in our stead. But we are here at their invitation to ensure that this coup doesn't take place. And for me personally, having worked for over 20 years in Honduras and having seen the devastating impacts of the June 28, 2009 coup that took place against Manuel Zelaya Rosales, and that was supported by the Hillary Clinton State Department, I could not imagine not being here if there's even the tiniest chance in the world that I could play a role in preventing that devastation from happening in Venezuela. The U.S. imperialist agenda is about destroying people's lives for profit and destroying our planet for profit. And I don't think I really have much to say about Venezuelan sovereign issues. That's their business to work out. I'm here because I oppose U.S. empire.
Yeah, the people downstairs that are surrounding the building have signs supporting Juan Guaidó. They are actually calling for U.S. military intervention. And they have these signs that say, we want democracy. And I'm like, how can you want democracy if you're actually supporting a coup, right? That's not actually democracy. So yeah, I want to echo what everybody said. There was a time there when a few days where it was really tough. Literally, they would start up at like 8 o'clock in the morning. You can hear some of the noise out back, but very intense noise, siren, sound blasting things, sound horns, light strobe lights at us. Just constant. And what I recognized was, I just started looking at it and looking at these people and just feeling like, well, this is so sad. This is just like so sad that you're behaved this way. Because I think about the people I met in Venezuela, the Venezuelans who are just like lovely people, friendly, loving people who I can't imagine them behaving so hatefully like that. And so it did really make me think like, wow, I want to do everything that I can to impact my government, to stop my government from doing this coup, because I know that the people that will be hurt the most are the people that we met in the barrios who've gotten healthcare and education and all kinds of things, and who are the biggest supporters of the Maduro government, and they'll be the first targets. And that just breaks my heart to think that that could happen.
And I think that in particular is what really puts the lie to their claim to be, as Venezuelans, they have more of a right than we do to say anything, because they are willing to bomb brown and black people in their country. They don't see themselves as being the same people as those people. And so to claim they speak for Venezuelans when they are actually just international white supremacists, I think it's a really dangerous trap to fall into linguistically.
So you mentioned that pro-Guaidó people outside are surrounding the building, but I know myself it's quite a lot more than just surrounding. I mean, they've actually besieged the building, refusing to let any people or any food in. Really, I think the plan is to try to starve you guys out. Talk a bit about what you're doing for food, what your plans are in that way, the challenges of trying to get food in, and what it's like from the inside that way.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead, Julie.
I really believe, I have the faith that somehow it's going to go back the way it was, when we can have people bring food and we can go out as we did before. However, today, my project was to do an inventory of the kitchen. So I went through by category. We've got lots of rice and beans and pasta. And so we will not.
And peanut butter.
We'll survive. Yeah, peanut butter. So that was my project for today. And I know that we will not starve.
Right, but we are being careful, and we're just having 2 meals a day, and trying to keep them on the smaller side so that we can make the food last longer. Thanks to some of our allies like you, we have gotten some food deliveries, and that was crucial, because we really would not have all those rice and beans and things if our allies on the outside hadn't found ways to break through and get that into us. And it was really hard for us watching you that first day when you came with a few people and some clergy and some bags of groceries to deliver them to us, and these extremists downstairs not only blocked you, but they assaulted, I don't know if they assaulted you or Chris, and that, when you were just simply tossing some loaves of bread and plastic things of lettuce onto the patio for us to get out the door, that you were arrested for throwing missiles at a building. It's just unbelievable. And that's what we're seeing, is that the Secret Service is literally not just on the side of these extremists downstairs, but they're coordinating with them. And when people like you try to deliver food to us and get assaulted by them, you're the ones that are either arrested or threatened with arrest. And that makes us feel really bad. We don't like to see that happen to our friends.
They don't even let the postal man in to deliver. We had a package of food being delivered yesterday. We were here. Margaret was out talking to them, saying, we're here. And the Secret Service prevented them from delivering the package to us. So they're taking an active effort in trying to starve us out and scare us out. And it's having the opposite effect. It's causing us to unify and in solidarity get stronger and really recommit to the goal of protecting this embassy for the Venezuelan people and stopping the Trump administration from violating international law, coming into this embassy and then giving it over to a government that doesn't exist.
How are you doing in terms of safety? You talked about, and I witnessed it from the outside, that the Secret Service is actually collaborating with these right-wing, very violent forces to attack people. So how are you feeling in terms of your safety, because these people are violent and because the Secret Service has shown that their aim is not to protect you?
Sure. Well, the other night there was what basically amounted to a lynch mob. They had gotten themselves so riled up, and they were banging on windows and started banging on one of the doors so hard that you could see it kind of going in. And I mean, they were engaged in serious property destruction with the Secret Service, who I've just come to start calling the SS, standing right next to them, doing absolutely nothing. And you know, it's not the property damage so much that we were worried about at that point. It was our own health and safety. These are people who burn people alive on the streets of Caracas when they get riled up like that. And you know, they were. So Max Blumenthal, the reporter with the Gray Zone, was outside just after this happened. He had the video that we had shot from the inside showing the door almost coming in, and asking the Secret Service officers if they were going to do anything about this crime that was in progress. And they just kind of laughed him off. And so, you know, we see how complicit they are, how really they share the same goal. At that point, when we were afraid for our lives, many people started calling the Secret Service to demand that, you know, that they do their job and respect the Vienna Convention, and at the very least respect, you know, our lives. And what very quickly happened is that they started reading a prepared statement that the department and the Secret Service were working together to ensure the public order, and then hanging up abruptly. And so they were not actually responding to any of us. But I think those calls, I mean, there was a lot of circulation on social media asking people to make those calls. I think they got the message that they're not going to get away with, you know, letting these fascist mobs outside destroy Venezuelan sovereignty and harm us as easily as they thought they might.
Yeah, I mean, we did have to fortify, and we did fortify the doors so they could not break in as easily. We checked all the windows and fortified the windows. So I think now that they're not actively breaking in, and they did also like drill through a door and destroy a doorknob and an outer door down in the garage. So we've had to barricade that. They were banging on the liftgate garage door with a sledgehammer. I mean, it was like crazy stuff. And so that did freak us out a little bit, but I think we pulled together really nicely. We fortified things. We did it, you know, we all pitched in on that and made sure that things were secure. And so I think now we're feeling, I mean, at least I am personally, I feel safe. Yeah.
I'll just add one more thing to the response that's really was key. In addition to the hundreds, maybe even thousands of phone calls that went into the SS and went into members of Congress and city council members, our lawyers took action. We're working with a partnership for civil justice. Mara Varhaden Hilliard sent a letter. It's one of 3 letters that she sent now to the State Department complaining about their lack of protection of the embassy, lack of protection of us. Members of our landlord, the Venezuelan government, also has been sending daily cables to the State Department complaining about their behavior. The UN representative for the Venezuelan government is also speaking out in the UN about this. And so we're starting to get a lot of support from people, from our landlord and the Venezuelan government, from our lawyers. I think all that's having an effect. So while they're still out there, they're not attacking the door anymore. In fact, the other morning we saw an incident where there were people by the door starting to hit on the door in the morning, doing their noise and all. And one of the leaders of the right-wing extremists was talking to the police, and the police officer seemed to explain to them what was going on. And shortly thereafter, the leader went to the people in the door and said, "It's good you're at the door, but don't bang on it. Pull away." So he told them not to bang on it. So I think the people responding in support of us have had an impact and have been able to really curtail the most threatening abuse. So we do feel safer, much safer now than we did at the worst moments of this crisis.
So, yeah, I see we have somebody new joining us, somebody else joining us. So if you could introduce yourself and say if there's any organizations you're affiliated with. And then we have a question from one of the attendees.
Hey, I'm Martha Allen with the Women's Institute for Freedom of the Press and Code Pink, Popular Resistance, all the wonderful organizations that are making this possible. I missed some of the earlier because I was at the front of the embassy the window where we are sharing support for all the embassy protection collective members that are on the outside, that are keeping us safe and keeping our spirits up, protecting us. So I'm glad to get this opportunity to join with you all.
So what's at stake? So let me read the question. Sorry, I started reading my own question. So what's at stake? We have one of the attendees asked, says, good evening. This is Carol Suarez. She says, Vecchio has supposedly submitted a request to have you vacate the embassy as soon as possible. She thought she read that was supposed to begin on May 1st. And she said, will that be the breaking point for you? I think the question is around, what does it look like if they get the legal grounds to say you have to leave the embassy?
So it's really interesting because, we expected that, that Vecchio was going to order us out on May 1st when he came, and that the police were going to come in and move us out. And we were prepared for that. We were ready to stay and hold the space and risk arrest and require them to have the optics of literally like carrying us out of the building. And after Vecchio kind of scooted away when his sound system didn't work and he was overwhelmed by us, a woman got up there and she said, we're working on a legal process. So he doesn't, even I think they recognize that he doesn't have the authority to order us out of here. So we have not received any formal notice. Our landlord, the Venezuelan government, to our knowledge, has not received any formal notice evicting us from this space. And so I think we're actually feeling like we're in a pretty good place right now, where if we can just hold out and, get our food to last, or hopefully our allies on the outside will find a way to get some food and supplies into us, if we can hold our spirits. Venezuela is actively working on finding a country to serve as a protecting power for this building. And if we can hold the space until that happens, then we'll be able to safely leave, knowing that it won't be turned over to the, to the pro-Guaidó people, that it will be turned over into the hands of a country that's signed a contract with Venezuela to take care of this space, and even could possibly provide diplomatic services, which is what some of these people are out here saying, well, we want diplomatic services. And we're like, well, if Guaido's people come in here, you won't get any because they don't have the power to do that. But if a protecting power comes in, they can have what's called an intersection, and they can do visas and passports. So, I think we're feeling good that maybe we can hold this space until that happens. Oops, we can't hear you.
Yeah, absolutely. We are rooting for you to hold that space for that time. The Trump administration, they say we're doing this. Well, John Bolton says it's not a coup, but we all know John Bolton is alive. We're doing this effort to help the Venezuelan people. Could you debunk that for us?
Well, can I just say one quick? You can respond to that, but I want to just say one thing first. Yeah, you can talk, but I just want to mention about the debunking the coup part. Anya Pariampol today has up on the Gray Zone Project an article that is based on a report that the U.S. government wrote describing their victories in Venezuela, which includes Guaido's self-appointment. But it basically, what this document was one that the government put out, but then we pulled back and tried to hide. But they left it out long enough for people to find it. And so she has written an article about it. What this document basically is an admission by the U.S. government that this, in fact, is a coup. So when they claim it's not a coup, send it to the Gray Zone Project, read this report on the U.S. report that shows this was, in fact, a coup planned by the U.S. government, executed by the U.S. government, and continue to be carried on by the U.S. government now that the Venezuelan people have said no to this coup 3 times. You want to say something else?
Well, one more thing, and just to point out also that that these aren't just Guaido's people. If we're turning it over, if the embassy gets turned over to Guaido's people, it's really getting turned over to Elliot Abrams, who you know quite well. And, you know, the agenda that he represents, which is one of, I mean, Elliot Abrams is a material supporter of genocide in Guatemala. He supported torture and massacres in El Salvador. He fomented the Contra and supplied, you know, the weapons with all the cocaine. I mean, the whole Iran-Contra affair. He was behind it, which was why he was convicted for in the hearings. And so, you know, what we've got is this horrifying war criminal. You know, they're not, the Trump administration, I think, does a better job of laying out the nature of their intentions than the Clinton State Department did, even though really it's the same thing. I mean, you know, what we saw with the Clinton State Department with the takeover of Honduras was that it was all about extractive resources. It was all about privatization. It was all about the neoliberal agenda. In the case of Venezuela, it's the same thing. We want their oil. And Elliot Abrams is a war criminal. Do we need a war criminal to get their oil? No, but I think the U.S. government wants to send a really clear message that it is taking over Venezuela and it is going to become a client state. So that's why, yeah, I mean, I want to always remember that if we talk about Guaidó, we're really talking about Elliot Abrams, Bolton, Trump.
Absolutely. I just want to echo that. When we're talking about Guaidó, we're really talking about Elliot Abrams, John Bolton, and Donald Trump. So what else would you like to tell us? And how can people around the country and around the world support the effort that you're making to protect this embassy as your part in helping stop this coup?
Well, by continuing to look at our Facebook page. I've been getting many emails once people find out that I'm here. I had a friend from Baltimore that called today to bring food, but at this point I was concerned that she might not be able to get in because we've had some problems with people coming and not being able to. We had some food that was thrown out today. And it's watching these people from here inside is a bit scary. So I told her not to come until, you know, some of this has been worked out. But I do appreciate all of the emails that I've been getting from people that have seen Facebook about what we're experiencing here.
I think key things are if you're able to come to Washington, D.C., please come. We have all this kind of hate right outside our door and our windows 24/7. And so when people show up across the street, our people, and, you know, pat their hearts saying they love us and chant with us. Sometimes we play music and they dance and we dance and it feels kind of like we've got a nice connection. It really lifts our spirits. And then we just feel like, I just remember kind of like through last year when these right-wing white supremacists would come to places and thousands of people would mobilize and say, no hate here. And literally here we are in the heart of DC, surrounded by hate 24 hours a day. We could really use folks to come out and show some love to us. So if you're able to do that, please come. But if you're not able to do that, please spread the word. Let folks know what's going on. Call your member of Congress. Tell them that the coup has failed. Hello, there is a president of Venezuela, and the U.S. needs to respect that, respect the Vienna Convention, which is not being respected right now, and protect U.S. citizens who are here in the embassies. And then, of course, you can donate to any of the organizations that are involved, Code Pink, or the Answer Coalition, or Popular Resistance, because we do hope that, you know, the supplies that have been purchased and that we still have, some have been stolen by the right-wingers outside, that we will find a way to get some of that into us. But people are incurring other expenses as well.
I would add that folks in DC should call their council members and they should call the mayor's office because this is happening in DC. This shouldn't be happening in DC. Folks here in Georgetown, have been listening to their abuses and to their racist rants and have to walk past them. And the other thing is that, it's absurd the fact that this is getting so little media coverage in the mainstream media. It's not absurd though, of course, because the mainstream media all along has served as a mouthpiece for the State Department and for Bolton and Elliott Abrams and Trump on this issue. And not just them, I mean the mainstream Democrats as well have been just as complicit in fomenting this coup, which can only lead to civil war. It can only lead to incredible violence and probably to international war. So we're talking about really high stakes here. And if the mainstream media isn't going to cover it, then it falls on us to get the word out through every means that we have.
I'll say something?
The media is crucial, and the New York Times, the Washington Post, broadcast stations, they are not covering it, and when they cover anything, it's distortions. It's appalling, and so it's no surprise that people you talk to are very confused and don't have the priorities. Certainly when you talk about, but do you want a coup, they say no, but the other issues that constantly is fed to them, you can't be surprised that people don't understand the issues. And that's why getting our own media out is crucial to clarify what is going on. For that, we'd encourage people to look at the Gray Zone Project, which has had some of the most fantastic reporting.
Mint Press News, Alex Rubenstein is here from Mint Press. Telesor has been covering this 24 hours as well. Kevin, you went into that.
On Popular Resistance, we have on the top of the page in the slider an article about this, and it includes the declaration of the Embassy Protection Collective. And that declaration goes through the facts about the election, goes through the facts about these violations of the Constitution by Guaidó and the requirements of the Vienna Convention. That document states why we're here and provides all the basic information that people need. Please look at it, sign it, and share it. Share it widely. We got to correct these false stories and be the media. Keep watching these websites, keep watching the social media, and share the information, because we can't count on the cable news outlets. We can't count on the New York Times, the Washington Post. We have to be the media. And when we become the media, that will force the corporate media to respond and tell the truth, because they know they'll be watched. So our job is to create the narrative. People who are watching this, people who care about this, create the narrative, be the media.
So speaking of being the media, I want to thank you for being here with us today and see if you would be up for doing this again another night. We are live on YouTube tonight, and I'm thinking next time we should go live on Facebook. So we will keep folks tuned in to let you know when the next webinar will be, but I think it'd be a really great regular thing to talk about updates from inside and let people be able to ask their questions about what's going on and what it's like.
Very good. Thanks for having us on. We'll talk to you soon. We're still here. We're still here.
Love and resistance.